For years, Ned Christie was known as an outlaw, as a villain, as he was portrayed that way by the federal government. It wasn't until years later when people really found out the truth behind the murder he had been accused of.
That's why the Cherokee Nation is displaying the life of Ned Christie through a traveling exhibit currently displayed at the Stillwell Public Library. It was 1887 when Christie was accused of murdering U.S. Deputy Marshal Daniel Maples. The night Maples was shot, there were several people near the scene of the crime, and all of them were considered suspects.
Most of those people had their warrants served and went to the U.S. District Court in Arkansas. Ned Christie was also accused of the crime. At this time, he had been a Cherokee senator for 2 years and was very a well-respected citizen. He was a citizen of the Cherokee Nation who believed in tribal sovereignty. So essentially, he had a hard time turning himself over to the U.S. federal government for a crime that he was being accused of in his own country, the Cherokee Nation. So at this time, Ned Christie essentially evaded the U.S. government for over 5 years.
Ned Christie paid a price for that decision. He paid with his life. A posse of 26 men ended up surrounding his home and killing him. His body was tied up and left on display for several days.
And the fact that he did not succumb to the U.S. District Court of Arkansas to stand, trial at that time what was believed to be, a white man's court, really said, he's standing up for what he believes in. He believes in tribal sovereignty. And these are issues that were happening then, and there's still tribal sovereignty issues happening today.
Travis Owens is with the Cherokee Nation Cultural Tourism. He's hoping this history teaches both Cherokees and non-Cherokees about Oklahoma history. Christie is buried in a little-known cemetery in Cherokee County, but his story and his legacy lives on. And visitors to the Stillwell Library are learning new things about their own history.
Yes, there's been several people, and as people come in and check out books, I've noticed a couple of them's last name was Christie, so I mentioned it to them, and they were related to Ned, and they went in and viewed the display and come back and said it was very nice. And then they went and told several people. So we've had several people in and out looking at the display, and everyone seemed to be very happy with it.
Karen George is a librarian and a Cherokee. She says about 85 to 90% of their community is of Cherokee Nation heritage. She says there is a lot her people can learn from this historical display.
And to make sure it never happens again, I would think there was a lot of injustice done to the Cherokee people when they were brought over on the Cherokee Trail. And we learn by our mistakes, but if you don't know about the mistakes we made, you can't learn from them and correct it.
And that's a lesson that all Oklahomans can learn.
I think the thing that this teaches all Oklahomans is that, Oklahoma has roots long before statehood, before 1907. There were tribal nations that were forced here, there were tribal nations that existed here, and these people that essentially left a legacy, for what they stood up for, maybe laid some of the groundwork for where we are today as a nation and as a state, these people that fought for their rights.